Hi, I'm Karena Walter, and welcome to the Standard Newsroom. I'm here with St. Catharines Mayor Walter Sendzik for our monthly online chat. Hello.
Great to be back. It's November, and the winter hasn't arrived yet, which I'm thankful for.
But you're wearing a scarf, and you don't usually wear a scarf indoors. What's this all about?
This is in support of World AIDS Day, and we raise the flag for positive living in Niagara and World AIDS Day in our community. And this is an opportunity for us in the community to show our support for positive living and all the great work that they're doing, as well as to be supportive of World AIDS Day in Canada. So this is the color, a beautifully well-made scarf, and I'm proud to wear it.
Yeah, it looks very nice.
Thank you.
Wanted to get to the news of the day today, which was about the judge dismissing lawsuits by the MPCA against St. Catharines resident Ed Smith. Have you had a chance to look at that judgment yet?
Yeah, I haven't read it in detail. I've followed along on the Standard and to the decision that was rendered by the judge, and I think it's a good day for the public to know that when they're challenging government, that there is a process that if something like this were to arise, that free speech is being upheld, and it's something that a lot of people have been paying attention to, and the judge has made his decision.
Do you think there are any lessons from this case that can be learned by other government agencies or just other government bodies in Niagara?
Yeah, and I think when obviously it comes to being in political office, we're always in a position where we're going to be criticized for decisions that we make and actions that we take. And so we have to be prepared for that criticism. And there's going to be times when we're probably not going to be happy with what people are saying. And so I always look at it and go, is it a personal attack? Is it an attack that's is harming my reputation? And you look at that and you got to still have that thick skin. And so I think the lessons learned here is that we've got to allow the public to have a strong voice. We've got to be open to the criticism. And in this case, the judge looked at all the material and dismissed the suits of defamation. So I think as a political body, whether it's regional or city council or other agencies, we've got to look closely at this and say, okay, what can we learn from it? Because a lot of money was spent on legal fees to carry this through on both sides, both by Major Ed Smith and by the MPCA, and those are funds that we shouldn't be wasting frivolously. So it's I think there's going to be some learning to come from this decision.
The City Council has raised a lot of issues about the MPCA through motions over the last few months. Is St. Catharines happy with its representation on the MPCA, and do you think?
Well, we don't have representation. Like it is appointed by the region, and so what some of the concern that council has brought up is that we provide the largest amount of funds through the levy done through the region. So we're one step removed away from the MPCA, and our representation, I think what council has articulated is that there has been some issues raised, and we want to make sure that the mandate of the MPCA, which is for the protection of our watershed, the protection of our waterfronts, and that is first and foremost. And I think when you look at some of the actions of the MPCA in the last number of years in terms of what they've done in our community for waterfront protection, watershed protection. They actually, the frontline staff are doing amazing work. Like they are working hard to ensure that its mandate as a conservation agency is being upheld. But you get into some of the other areas, and that's where the concerns are being raised. But looking forward to seeing the audit when it comes out. Looking forward to the Auditor General, and the MPCA Board has been very open to asking for an Auditor General to come forward now. And looking forward to see those results.
Some of the readers who have read the story that just broke last night are saying the MPCA's board should resign. What do you think of that?
Well, that's a board decision, and I've sat on a number of boards, and I do know that when you get into a situation where you're being challenged on the decisions that have made or indecisions that have taken place, it's up to the individual board members to ask themselves, be introspective, and ask themselves, what is my role here? Is my role to simply just protect the organization that I represent, or is there a level of independence that I need to question more about what's going on? I'm not in a position to say that they should resign. I think that's an individual decision that they would make. But I think the decision by the judge is a opportunity for the board to say, okay, what went wrong here? What's going on? What's some of the issues that we need to correct? And if they're not prepared to do that, then they have to ask themselves, what role do they want to play moving forward?
The other thing that happened last week was the Niagara Sports Commission announced that it was folding because of lack of funding. They played a key role in bringing the Canada Games here. We've seen some activity at the Meridian Centre for events that they've brought. And I'm just wondering how this is going to affect the city and its move for any future bids.
It was a surprise. I wasn't given any heads up that this was happening. And it was unfortunate, and it is unfortunate because they were very active in the World Under-18 Women's Hockey Tournament that we very successfully held here. They worked hard on the Canada 21 Games bid in the beginning. They were instrumental in getting us the FIBA Under-18 basketball tournament that takes place this June. And these are all large events that are coming into our community, economic generators. And that's what the role of a sports commission plays. And it's an important organization that I'm hoping will come back in some form, because as individual municipalities, we don't have the resources to go after these larger events, sporting events. But we've got the venues, whether it be Henley, whether it be the Meridian Centre or the Flatwater Centre in Welland. We have great sporting amenities here. But we need a coordinating body, and that was the role that they played. And I know City of St. Catharines provided funding for it. The region at one point provided funding, but I would think that a lot of the 12 municipalities plus the region and the Tourism Partnership of Niagara, they all should have played a larger role in creating sustainable funding moving forward. I'm hoping that something like the Niagara Sports Commission comes back, because it will be missed. It will be missed.
And if it doesn't come back, is it going to be the city's economic development office that'll go after these sporting events, or just individual sports associations in the city?
It'll revert back to the way it was, which we weren't getting these events. And Bram Cotton, who was the CEO of the Niagara Sports Commission, he was a very aggressive individual who went out and showcased our region's ability to host these events through volunteerism, through our infrastructure, through the uniqueness of the Niagara region. And if we don't have that, that's where we're going to start to see gaps. And again, the City of St. Catharines can't do it alone. Niagara Falls can't do it alone. We need to have an organizing body, and it is unfortunate because, again, Bram did an amazing job securing some very large events, and I don't have the confidence moving forward that we could do it alone, and that would be my concern. Mm-hmm. So I'll be pushing for having something like the Sports Commission come back.
We've got a number of reader questions, but I wanted to ask you about the older adults meeting that you held this week, because that was the third one.
Third forum.
Just wanted to know how that went and if you learned anything from
Always
the
do.
people who showed up.
We always learn from the older adults forum. They have so much experience and wisdom to share with us. And the unique thing about this year is that we broke it into 4 different areas. So we had a session about where we're going as a city and what we've done and some of the successes from previous forums. And then we broke it into 4 different categories. So we had housing, affordable housing, we had transit, we had parks and recreation, and we had the city budget financing. And interestingly enough, Karena, when you look at the dynamics, we had over 100 people come out to the Dunlop Senior Center. Most of the people went to affordable housing and they went to transit. And that's interesting, because affordable housing is more and more becoming something that's important to a lot of people in our community, and so is transit. And so that was, to me, a validation of what we're doing at the City of St. Catharines through a housing action plan and through our moving towards intermunicipal integrated transit. And you're starting to see the pressure points that a lot of people are facing with the housing. And so it was great this week, on the same day that we were able to go and break ground for the Bethlehem housing project in downtown St. Catharines, on the same day as the federal government announcing its national affordable housing strategy. So it's all of this is coming together, and that older adults forum was a way for us to hear from those who have lived in our community for a long time, expressing their concerns and their optimism about where we're going. So we got some good takeaways from that forum.
Get into the reader questions here. We have one from Michael Denhart. Sorry if I'm pronouncing your name incorrectly. Saying gridlock's becoming an issue in St. Catharines, Niagara Street at the QEW bottlenecks at rush hour, for instance. This will only worsen as the city grows. Is there a long-term plan to improve traffic flow?
That will come out of the transportation master plan. And Michael is, I follow Michael on Twitter. He follows me on Twitter, so it's great to see his engagement in the community. And you look at that transportation master plan taking into consideration additional bike lanes, looking at how our public transit system flows and how cars move about in our community, and as well as the trail systems that we're building so we can move people around both on feet, in a car, and on a bike, and in transit. And so that master plan is being developed now, but Michael's correct that there is an increase in traffic in our community because, I'll be honest, more people are living in our community, more people are moving about in our community in a different way, and we have to stay ahead of what can be pressure points and bottlenecks by looking at what is our investment even in technology. Adopting new lights that allow for the constant flow of information to take place so that our light patterns are allowing people to travel in a more efficient way. We got a lot of work to do. Our city isn't built on any kind of what would be a patterned grid. It is a bit of a meandering grid of streets, but he's identified that gridlock is something that we're seeing more and more, and we've got to get ahead of it.
We have a lot of old streets too, like
Yes, we do.
Geneva, that's only 2 lanes at one point and is a major artery. So
Yes.
it's going to be dealing with that kind of stuff.
And hopefully we can deal with that intersection and get that done with, so that the region and the city had some great ideas, and unfortunately it got derailed a bit. But we're hoping that comes back so we can move people more in that area.
Okay. We have Joe Martin asking a question through Facebook. Why is it that the city hasn't paid off that $1 million shortfall from the Meridian Arena naming rights? We have that, he said the arena naming rights, so I think he means the Ice Dogs Way. We have that $4 million from the scrapped hydro station, so use it for the arena. Remember, Mr. Mayor, this is the taxpayers' money, not yours.
Oh, I know, and Joe's a great supporter of the city. He comments a lot on Facebook. He's very positive in a lot of his comments, and he is right. And I would never assume that the surplus is anything but the taxpayers' money. And we've got a meeting set in January, and in doing that, we'll look at where those dollars are best invested in the community, and whether the council makes the decision to put it onto the Meridian Center or looks at something like affordable housing or other parts of the community, we'll make sure that it goes to the best use that has the greatest impact on the people in our community. So it's a great question, and hopefully it'll be answered in January.
If Darren Clark asks, wondering how concerned Walter Sendzik is with overdevelopment in the region and St. Catharines in particular, given the various negative impacts overdevelopment has on the environment and the life contained within it.
And again, it's a great question about development. I think the City of St. Catharines is doing a wonderful job in terms of how we grow. We have an official plan that has been approved by the province and the region, and it's about how we grow. We are growing up. We do and are surrounded by a green belt, which we support as a council and as a community. And so we are sensitive about how we're growing. And vertical growth is much better than horizontal growth. We're not about urban sprawl. We are landlocked, and our community is becoming more of an example of how to grow a 21st century city, and it's about growing up. And so I think the city and the planning department have done a marvelous job on balancing that impact on the environment with how we need to grow up. And so it's a great question, and I think St. Catharines is leading by example when it comes to protecting our environment, but at the same time recognizing that density and growth isn't just about growing out, it's about growing up.
I think this question sort of plays into that as well from a Twitter handle at City Ecology. How can citizens of all ages support the growth of St. Catharines urban forest? And how can the public keep up to date with new urban forest initiatives St. Catharines is exploring to improve the overall health of urban trees?
And another question that council has been wrestling with for a while in our Parks and Recreation Department, and we have a Forestry division. They've been very active in creating new policies, so we do have a new public tree policy, public tree bylaw that prohibits the taking down of public trees unless they're dead, diseased, or dying, or provide a significant hazard to the surrounding area. And we're also investing in planting more trees into our built urban forest. And we're working with a unique company. It's a tree coating company, and it's a local geospatial. It's a local company that is working with our Parks and Rec department to codify all the trees that we have in our community, and they're starting with our public trees. And so we'll be able to follow online the growth of our urban canopy and where we need to invest more in that urban canopy. So that information is going to be coming forward soon, and the public will be asked to participate and show how they want to get involved in. Well, I believe, if you've got the space in your property, plant more trees. If you want to support city initiatives, we have donation programs that you can plant trees in memory of people or in support of people, and that's an excellent way of building up our urban forestry, and it's an important part of this council. It's part of our strategic plan.
And I think you have a report coming to council on Monday about the free tree giveaway that just happened in the fall, which was a big success.
Yeah, we've had two. So it's over 1,000 trees have been found their way into people's backyards and front yards. And as they say, you plant a tree today, not for the shade of today, but for the shade of tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So we're planting these trees today so that the next generation will be able to turn around and say, this area was built up because of decisions that people made in 2017. So it's pretty cool to see that.
Okay, well, with that, we're going to sign off because we've run out of time. I know there are a few more questions here, and if you send one in, we'll save it for our next chat, which is in December. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for coming in again.
Thank you for having me. I look forward to seeing you in December.